I would like to point out how quiet I've been here because he immediately said he's just going to take over this whole thing. So I've been purposely quiet for a second here. The Pop 2000.
The fact that you have to purposely be quiet, like you have to think about it.
All right.
That's something in your brain with Neil Oren that goes through that. Okay, just don't talk. Okay, I think he's on a roll here. Don't say anything. Just don't. How hard is that for you? Is that like...
It's hard for me to listen to you
when you retire from football and you have to go watch a game. And you're like, is that why you don't go to the Super Bowl if you're playing?
I've never seen you this serious this long. That's what's hard for me right now. That's true. That is my problem right there.
That
I'm like,
makes sense.
Who is this guy? How do you remember all those names?
That makes sense.
You
what names?
Literally pull up names from studios from 30 years ago.
Well, because it was the biggest.
I understand it was huge, but I still don't remember.
But that was, those were the times. I can tell you who worked at our record label when we were just signed to BMG Areola in Munich, Germany. It was like, you remember, and those were the times too. Like we started out over in Europe, and it was just 5 idiot kids that had a dream, worked really freaking hard, and had a goal, and we all loved to be around each other. We would find ourselves in stairwells. If we went into a bathroom that had a good acoustics, hey, come in here, and just go in to sing together because we loved singing together. We loved the harmonies. We loved everything we did. But those are the memorable times, and that's what really you all go back to. That's why when you hear music as an older person, I won't say old, but I'm old. But as an older person, you're always like, back in my day, it was so great. It wasn't great. No. There was still a lot of crap times. There was a lot of garbage going on, but you only remember the good times, and you only remember what's great about them. So, you go look back on those times. You remember those people. You remember those feelings, and you always wish you could go back there because you're not remembering, oh, man, I felt like, poop a couple times those mornings where I was out drinking all night or something and then had to work at 6 a.m. You don't remember that stuff.
The whole strategy was to start it out in Europe and get the whole formula together, right? Before you really started launching it.
No.
What was it?
The strategy was to be successful. And we tried everything. In fact, when we got discovered, we just went out and did it ourselves first. We went out and luckily Justin and JC were on the Mickey Mouse Club. So we had a lot of resources. We had a vocal coach who, still to this day, she was from Nashville. And it was crazy because even though if you looked on paper back in the day, Lou Pearlman was the 6th member of NSYNC.
Right.
Robin Wiley was the 6th member of NSYNC. She was the one that arranged everything. And she did it with that Nashville flavor. Like you were saying, the production, the reason the production was so good on what we do is because it was almost like an older country song where, the reason a lot of these country songs sound so big is because there's no part unsung. You're going to have the lead, you're going to have the third, you're going to have the fifth, you're going to have the octave of a lead, you're going to have a lower octave of a lead, you're going to have an octave of the third. You're going to have every part in there to make that wall of sound, and that's kind of what we did. And Robin was one of those people that just put it all together and was like, I know how you sing, I know how you sing, I know what you do, I know what you do. Let me arrange this, or she had some songs she wrote for us. She did a medley. We gave the Bee Gees a Lifetime Achievement Award overseas when we were, just starting out touring over there. And we did this Bee Gees medley that afterwards, and the Bee Gees are, when it comes to the harmonies and the backgrounds, unbelievable. Regardless of what you think, like those guys, the way they could sing together, and they were brothers, so they could really blend well.
There's something special about the family dynamic.
Always. You look at all those. I mean, look at the Jonas Brothers. Look at the Moffats. Crazy as it sounds, up from Canada. A lot of these bands, when they're family, you hear it and you go, "Oh man, that you can't get that blend."
Mm-hmm.
But those songs and getting that blend with us was so different and just so meaningful. And Robin's the one that pulled all that together and said, listen, I know how this is supposed to work. And she actually taught us so much about music, which was great.
How upset were you when they found out that Robin had been turning off your microphone for all those years?
Well, they could hear it in the house. I just couldn't hear it in my ears because it was probably better that way.
Okay. It's something that, it's one of those questions. I've known you for so long, and I was so curious what you would say.
Yeah. If they knew that I really wasn't singing.
I get it.
in the house. Well, they tell me I was.
Yeah.
That's all that matters. They're like, man, you sounded great tonight. I'm like,
that
was the record.
You had one of the strong voices in the group, and and it's featured on a lot of the cuts. So I have to follow that up with that.
Whatever.
So what was the moment that all of a sudden you were like, all right, we're in Europe, or we're not sure where our career is going. Then all of a sudden someone sat you down and said, this is happening right now, and this is going to get huge.
That moment never came. I mean, that wasn't like there wasn't. The weird thing about it,
like the crowds get bigger all of a sudden.
The weird thing about it is, again, kind of going back to the overnight success story kind of thing. It was one of those things where, looking back on all the amazing things we got to do, of course, there's moments. I mean, Rock in Rio in front of hundreds and hundreds of thousands of fans.
The Michael Jackson.
Yeah. Meeting Michael Jackson, meeting Paul McCartney, meeting Paul Simon. Doing a song with Phil Collins, doing a song with Gloria Estefan, having Stevie Wonder on your record, doing a Super Bowl halftime. All these things are crazy moments, and I don't want to downplay those at all because they're absolutely, still think about those all the time. Mm-hmm. But when the way we did it was, our first show was filmed in Orlando in front of Mickey Mouse Club fans, in front of 150, maybe 200 kids. When we started in Europe, we started opening up for this guy who was huge over there at the time named DJ Bobo. And he was basically the MC Hammer of Europe. He was Swedish, I think. And he would do these crazy stand up for the rose and pray, kind of like things, not MC Hammer pray, but his own pray. And production. And we would open up for him, and he would have this big black curtain closed, and we had like maybe 6 feet where we had to do all our dancing, all our flips and the stuff we used to do. But we were the opening act. One thing we learned there is name drop the opening act one time. Don't do it because you're getting the applause. You don't go out there, are you guys ready for DJ Bobo? How about DJ Bobo coming up next? Did you like that song? Because DJ Bobo's coming to play him, because they scream when they hear DJ Bobo or whatever. And then we did our own tour where we started out with maybe 400, couple hundred people. We played the tours close at the end. We played Berlin, and there was like maybe 1,000 or 2,000. And I remember looking out going, wow, this is what this many people looks like.
Yeah.
Then we come over we did another tour over there, and it got a little bigger. We come over to the States. We did what I call the border tour, where it's cross Texas, lower Texas, cross lower Canada, or like upper states where it's like Seattle, Boston, Detroit, all these like border states. And they were doing theaters, and they got a little bigger. And then we come out and we start doing bigger theaters and bigger shows. Then we move to sheds, and then we're playing, 4,000 or 5,000 kids a night. Then we moved to arenas, which was 7,000, 8,000 kids a night. And then you go to stadiums. So it was like this gradual, just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And there wasn't a moment where it was like, man, this is what's going on here. Or, you guys got to do this. It just was the next step. It was the next step up, and we never took a step back. We just kept going forward and doing bigger shows, bigger things, doing the Tonight Show.
Yeah.
I remember that was kind of big because we did this show called Wetten, Das in Germany, right?
With DJ Bobo?
No, DJ Bobo did not do it, but it was Thomas Gottschalk was the host, right? And he's done some acting in the States. You might know him if you saw him. But this show was like the Tonight Show of Germany, but they'd only put it on like once or twice a month. So it was this big production, and all the German people, all the German label people and everything, like, oh, you guys are doing Wetten, Das. This is huge. This is huge. And, we do the show, and we're like, I think it was huge. We don't know. People come up and start speaking German. We're like, yeah, exactly. We go home to our family in the States. We just did Wetten, Das. And they're like, well, that's Wetten great. You're like, they don't get it. But then you do Tonight Show, and that's something in the States that we'd heard of.
Yep.
And then you start doing these other shows. And we did a lot of the daytime shows. We did Rosie O'Donnell when she had a show, Ricky Lake, all those kind of, daytime talk shows.
I remember the Ricky Lake when I saw it.
Yeah, I still have, I have a robe that she autographed. Like, I was like, I got Ricky Lake's autograph. Like, because and two, here we were, we'd go overseas and we'd do these tours, and especially in Europe, kids camp out outside your hotel room.
Yeah.
And they just bring sleeping bags. There'd be 50 to 100 kids outside, and security would whisk you in. And it's like, well, I'm not going to see this town. I can't even walk outside. Because if you start to walk down the street, you're going to have 20 people following you around. We'd go to the airport and come home and tell all your friends, I'm big in Japan, like the old cliche is what you say.
You and Uncle Jesse.
Yeah, right. No, who's huge was David Hasselhoff.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
In Germany. Man, he was a god over there. It was crazy. But yeah, you come home and people are like, I don't know who. Tell my mom, she's like, I'm still proud of you. I'm like, but I did. It's like millions of viewers. She goes, I'm sure it is. But I'm still proud of you. But I'm still proud of you.
That's right. That's right. Well, it was such a massive storm. Like we were in New York with the family last fall doing some stuff and walked by Madison Square Garden. And I'm just like, I'm looking at that place. I'm like, one day I'm going to have a reason to do something there, one day. And I remember when when you got the big show came out, it was just massive. Mm-hmm. And that was when I first really loved the band so much, because those tracks are hard to replicate live.
Yeah, that was really, that was some rigorous rehearsals and stuff, was to try to make what was on the record sound good live. But the thing about it was, the only difference is you're hearing on the record 10-part harmonies, 12-part harmonies.
Yeah.
You're hearing in a live performance 5-part harmonies, which is still full.
Yeah.
You're going to hear all the parts. You're just not going to get the octave of a part.
All the doubling and everything.
All the doublings or whatever. So, and another thing, the live performances to us were always our bread and butter, because we loved putting on a show. We loved making it a show. Mm-hmm. Every song we did wasn't, us with mic stands, and chairs going, okay, this next song we wrote, whatever. Every song we did was lights out for a second, and it's a music video.
Yeah.
It's something completely different. It's a wardrobe change. It's a music video. We did a song called It Makes Me Ill, and we're all on operating tables doing, choreography and stuff with operating stuff. We did a song called Up Against the Wall, which we had this giant Velcro wall, and we put on these Velcro suits and jumped off these trampolines and landed
that was madness.
On the thing.
Yeah.
We had Space Cowboy, where we brought 5 mechanical bulls out and did, choreography on mechanical bulls. And then in between, we'd play little vignettes on there, like to keep everybody from, while we're back there quick changing, which is funny, because when I help produce the shows, I always think about what I want to see as a fan, and what you believe is happening as a fan.
Yeah.
If you've been a touring musician and you're on stage, and you go off stage for a quick change, and you're in the audience, you've never done any of this, you don't know what's going on. You think they just ran back, somebody's handing them a glass of champagne. They pull up to their table, which is tablecloth table. The waiter comes over real quick, and somebody's taking their boots off for them as they're talking, discussing, whatever, and doing all this. The reality is, you're sweating your butt off downstairs, and your wardrobe person is throwing stuff at you. You're trying to get it on in time, and
sweaty.
Joey's hitting, Lance is hitting you, JC's hitting you, whoever, knocking each other. Get out of my face. I'm trying to get my boots on. I'm trying to get this, So when we do our shows, I thought it would be cool was if, we're running back and the camera's following us running back, and then there's a little break, and then it goes to this thing we filmed, and it's backstage where there's like the makeup mirrors, and somebody's getting powdered. There's an elephant walking by. There's like a bowling alley. There's all this stuff that you imagine is actually backstage to keep that whole kind of thing alive, and you buy into it, and that makes the show. But then each song you come out, like I said, it's a different vignette. It's something, we're coming in on zip lines and doing this thing where the stage gets up and moves out and goes, and try to make that arena or where you're playing so that those people in the back get a chance to feel like they're in the front row, kind of thing. So it was the live show was our bread and butter.
You did a lot to kind of change the whole live show, the whole feel of a live show when you were doing stuff like that. They became more theatrical.
Well, I don't think we changed that. That was done before us.
Well, you took it to a level that had not been seen.
Yeah, we definitely took it to a level that it was like you were watching an episode of TRL.
Yeah.
Or you're watching MTV, and it just happened to be the NSYNC hour. or something. So it's all our songs, but you're watching like each music video as it happened, or each thing was different than the next. And we're not just coming out and just us dancing and doing choreography. There's all, we had, every song was a different vignette.
That's right.
Exhausting.
That's right. Well, you brought up, yeah, I had to be right.
No, seriously,
It's
you
not-
had to be in really good shape to do something like that because
Or young. Hold on.
or young. Right?
Trust me, that show I just had 2 nights ago in Rhode Island, we added new songs and like more choreography and more dancing. And right before I went out to do my set with the guys, the AC broke in this little theater.
No.
And it was hot.
Oh.
And I looked at my road manager and I said, "Hey, watch me." I was like, I might go down. If you see me just go down, just act like it's part of the show and carry me off.
And then you come home and play golf in 110-degree heat. You're
And I told my guys, watch me.
That's right.
watch
I
me.
could go down.